Hello, this is an Anyconnect management and user tunnel demonstration. Thanks to Ned Zolivar for helping me set this up so we can record a demo. So the use case is this. This is an Anyconnect user on their laptop before they even logged on to their machine. So the machine is powered up, but they're not logged into the machine itself. Anyconnect would initiate a management tunnel using machine certificate authentication, and that would build a tunnel back to the corporate ASA. Okay, so the user is completely unaware of this and nothing for them to do. And with this tunnel up, this allows corporate administrators to go ahead and remotely patch PCs, push any updates when necessary after hours, update scripts, etc. So it gives them a maintenance opportunity there. Now, once the user wakes up in the morning and they're ready to go to work and they log into their machine, that management tunnel would drop, and then the user tunnel would initiate, okay, using any of the configure authentication methods, AAA, SAML, or certificate authentication for the user. In this demonstration, I'm going to show you the SAML authentication for the user tunnel, and this is done through Okta SAML plus the Duo multi-factor authentication. So let's go ahead and take a look at my ASA here. Here's my ASDM, and I have a machine tunnel already up. It's Windows 10 VM-test. That's the name of the machine. And if I go to details, I can see that, hit refresh. Go to detail here, I can see that the authentication mode, it's certificate. So it's showing me that it is a machine certificate being used for this specific machine. Okay, so then now let's go ahead and jump over to my client machine, and I'm going to log into the machine here. Okay, you can see that the Anyconnect client has popped up, has loaded, and is now prompting the user for authentication to initiate the user tunnel. So I'm going to go ahead and log in to the Okta portal, and now I am being prompted for the integrated Duo multi-factor authentication. I'm going to hit send me a push, and then in the background you can see my Duo request has popped up. I'm going to hit approve. Okay, and there it is. I've successfully authenticated, and I am logged into my Okta tunnel. And if I go ahead and take a look at the VPN, it shows that the management connection has dropped, disconnected, and the user tunnel is up now. So the user is connected. Okay. Now let's go back to ASDM. You can see here before it was a Windows 10 VM. Let me go ahead and do a refresh. And now the user shows JELIN. That's at cisco.com. That is my Okta login name. So it's now showing up as a user tunnel. And if I go to details, you can see here that the authentication mode is SAML. So, and that is done through SAML here. So let me go ahead and close this and jump out of here, and now just say I am done. I can disconnect here, or I can log out, doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go and sign out of my machine, simulating that I am off work. So I'm just going to sign out. Now that I signed out, my user tunnel should refresh itself. Okay, let's do a refresh. Give it a second here, and you can see here now it's no longer logged in as JELIN anymore. It's now logged in as Win10 VM-test again, right? It's the machine tunnel that has, or management tunnel that has come up, and it is again back to certificate authentication from the machine. Okay, hopefully you found this demo very useful, and thanks for watching. Next, we're going to show you what the configuration looks like for the machine management tunnel with certificates, and also the user tunnel using Okta SAML authentication. So here I have two connection profiles, one for the machine or the management tunnel and one for the user tunnel. I might call it Okta. So let's take a look at machine. If I edit this, the authentication method is for certificate only because I am looking for certificates. And then the address is normal. My group policy is I have a group policy called machine tunnel. If I edit that, pretty much everything is default. Just make sure banner is not turned on because you for machine certificate authentication you don't want the banner pop up to stop the authentication process. Everything's pretty standard. Just make sure your protocols are enabled for the right choices. And then the servers, DNS servers, that's all fairly standard. I have split tunnel turned on for tunnel all networks. And then I have underneath Anyconnect client, there's a client bypass protocol you have to enable. And then I have the client profiles associated with this specific group. And I'll show you my client profiles in another screen later. Okay, but they should be here if you attach it in the client profile section. Then last but not least, there's also custom attributes. You need to configure a custom attribute called management tunnel all allowed. Okay, and the value has to be true. This is part of the split tunnel configuration there. And now let's go back over to, okay, and then in my management tunnel I also have a group alias. It's got my ASA name as well as IP, and then the management tunnel name that I configured. Okay, and then in the Okta user profile, here I configure a typical connection profile, but now my authentication method is SAML. I have it configured to point to my SAML server that I set up earlier, and this is the Okta single sign-on server in the cloud, and these parameters were taken from my Okta portal and imported in, input into here. So they would establish a secure communication with the ASA. Okay, and then from a group alias perspective, I also have a tunnel name for the group URL called Okta. Okay, and if I go back to the group policy, I have a group policy called Okta for the user, and then if I edit that policy, again everything is very generic, inherit default values, and no split tunnel needs to be configured here because I'm not doing any split tunneling. And then underneath Anyconnect, I have a profile. Everything's default. I have a profile associated with it, including the management tunnel. And then custom attributes, there's nothing configured because it's not needed. Okay. Now in the client profile side, I have two profiles, one for the management tunnel, and here, and make sure if you configure it, your management tunnel profile usage is Anyconnect management VPN profile. That's new, added, so make sure you pick that. And if I edit this, the only thing I configured in here is the trusted network detection, because if I'm on the corporate network, I want the client to be off, the VPN to be off, and then if I'm untrusted, not on the corporate network, you go ahead and initiate the VPN selection. And then the trusted DNS domain, as well as a trusted DNS server within my lab, that's all been configured. And then last but not least is the VPN server list. You must enter one here because this is an entry that shows up in the actual Anyconnect client for them to connect to. Okay, so I have one with my ASA name and the management VPN name that I configured. For the Okta user profile, it's here. The profile usage is Anyconnect VPN profile, and my configuration is pretty straightforward. This is all fairly default for preferences part 1, and preferences part 2. Again, I have the trust network detection connected, set up here to disconnect if I'm on the corporate network, and then connect via VPN if I'm on the untrusted outside the corporate network. And these are my trusted DNS server and IP address in my network. And then the next piece you have to configure is the server list. This is a server list that shows up in the Anyconnect client itself. I have one called Okta. That's the ASA name as well as Okta. Okay. And last but not least, underneath the advanced section, I have a Anyconnect custom attribute, and this actually goes along with the management VPN tunnel. So I have a type called management tunnel all allowed, and the description is the same name, management tunnel all allowed. And then you also have to create one custom attribute name for type management tunnel all allowed, and the name has to be true and the value has to be true. All right, so you create this and also make sure that these values show up in your management tunnel group policy. And here's the group policy again for Anyconnect client and custom attribute. It shows up in here. Okay. If all goes well, that's all it takes. And hopefully this is helpful in getting you set up in your lab. Thanks for watching.